Vasishta said, whatever the infinite consciousness conceived of and whenever, that it then experienced. And we can put this into the present tense. Our reality is determined by our disposition and by our cultural context, or subcultural context. And Vasishta's answering a flurry of questions put to him by King Pranyapti. And one of these questions was to do with boons and curses, which was obviously quite important at the time, and perhaps still is in some places. If one sage grants a boon and another sage grants a curse, which one wins out? And what this is it's actually pointing to a contradiction in that culture, a contradiction in that belief. Anybody with any intelligence will ask questions about their cultural beliefs. And I include science within that. Science is as much a belief system as anything else. Science makes certain assumptions which have no more basis than blind faith. And I think it's the basis of these assumptions which causes a lot of problems in science. But this has been explored. Science is a cultural thing. Or we can at least say that the relative importance of science is a cultural thing. Science is not a system of belief, but it is used as a system of belief by many people, especially in the modern world. Science is a method. It's actually the same method as the method of self-inquiry, but some people have turned it into a belief, including many scientists. So, the extent to which science is a belief is also part of the cultural context. Even so, boons and curses derive their power also from the infinite consciousness. And it's the infinite consciousness expressing itself as the power of belief, the power of reality. It gives this sense of reality to things, including beliefs. It is because of the appropriate conception arising in consciousness that injunctions and prohibitions acquire their authority and their power. And this is referring to guidelines for our moral behaviour, which you often find in scriptures. And very often the belief is that by behaving good, you'll go to heaven, and if you don't behave well, you'll go to hell or have a bad rebirth. So the choice is between heaven and hell, or a good rebirth and a bad rebirth, depending on your behaviour. And Vasishta's reply is, to the extent to which consciousness is embedded in that belief is the extent to which it is true. And if you believe in boons and curses, then you'll be affected by them. This is the basis of the Voodoo religion, isn't it? If you believe in Voodoo, then you'll be susceptible to its curses and protections. It is because the embodied being here in this world could not comprehend what existed before the beginning of this creation that it was said that non-existence alone was prior to that. And this is what we get both in religion and science. We get, from the scientific point of view, this point where there was no time nor space. It's a point that cannot be comprehended. This sounds uncannily like consciousness, and indeed what else could it be? Consciousness comes and goes. However, existence and non-existence, creation and dissolution, are like the opening and closing of the eyes of the infinite consciousness. I say it comes and goes, but we have to bear in mind the relative nature of that statement. But we have this pattern. If you like to think of consciousness as vibrations, well, this is the vibration. Birth and death is one oscillation of that vibration. Awake and sleep, existence and non-existence, the winking of an eye. These are oscillations, these are frequencies. This is the nature of conditioned existence. In a way you can think of the Absolute as the eye, the total eye. Within that eye is the blinking eyelid, which blinks or which goes to sleep. So we can see this is the nature of consciousness. It goes in and out of dream. It goes in and out of awareness. It goes between consciousness and unconsciousness. It goes between life and death. This is the vibration of consciousness. But consciousness is also the whole I. Such is the very nature of the infinite consciousness, that creation arises and ceases constantly. Just as when you indulge in daydreaming, you build and dissolve your mental images in the twinkling of an eye. However, all these are but images that arise in the infinite consciousness. It does nothing at all. And this is the realization. When you think about consciousness, when you contemplate it, we can talk in terms of its vibration, in terms of its oscillations between dream and waking, between life and death, the blinking consciousness, but it does nothing at all. And that's the realization of the nature of pure consciousness. You realize its stillness, it's motionless. So this is the final discrimination in a way, which needs to be transcended. And it can only be transcended by realization.